Governor, first off, with this your first graduation at CHP Academy, how?
Yeah, I did it as Lieutenant Governor, but it's great, obviously, to be here. All these, remarkably young. You realize how old you are when you go to Academy class graduation, but the energy, the idealism, and the sense of optimism about the future and public service. It's a wonderful thing, and I encourage folks to think about that when we think about law enforcement generally, and the incredible heroism and sacrifice these people make every single day, putting themselves on the line, and I think that needs to be recognized.
You're busy. Why was it important for you to clear this in your schedule today?
Just because I wanted to express that, and I wanted to express gratitude, appreciation. You can't say it enough. I've been to too many funerals, CHP officers and other folks in law enforcement, and I don't want to go to any more funerals because it breaks your heart, and you hate to see folks that wake up every morning serving and protecting, put in those positions, and so this is a way on the front end to again express that.
Your reaction to some of the demonstrations that have happened just in Sacramento?
Understandable. I've been in public life over 20 years, and we've had difficult times. And my city is San Francisco, and obviously we're having difficult times here in the state, across the nation. Things haven't gone away. That's why we put a record amount of money in post. I think training fundamentally is the most important thing we can do. Change culture, you got to change training and the way we train. People that are increasingly struggling, people in law enforcement with conditions that have changed radically since, I started in public service. The issues of mental health, issues out on the streets, the homeless, and the interactions, a lot of very difficult challenges, and of course the most vexing, the issues of implicit bias, the issues of de-escalation, and those issues are being debated obviously in the Capitol, and I'll be meeting with Ms. Weber next week and law enforcement representatives. I think Monday, Tuesday, we're basically clearing the decks on this topic.
Regarding Trump's cutting back the $300 million on Oroville Dam repairs, what are your feelings on that?
My feelings. It's sad and unfortunate, and I guess he's trying to express his opinion by basically belittling and demeaning the folks in a district that are directly impacted by those cuts that probably overwhelmingly supported him. Great irony of this. And I hope he considers that when he makes these kinds of decisions, and none of it surprises me or you, candidly, anymore. Before I got here, I think we were involved in 44 lawsuits. That was before I got sworn in. We've been at this for years now, and when it comes to infrastructure, emergency preparedness, emergency planning, rebuilding, no place for politics. We can have disagreements on other issues, but infrastructure and emergency planning and public safety, I'm just trying to do my best to elevate, and I wish the president would do the same.
Where do you think the funding would come from?
Well, invariably, you know where it comes from. It comes from you and me. It comes from the ratepayers ultimately that will pay that price. But we'll figure that out. We'll work through it. Look, we have a lot of strengths in California, not least of which the Speaker of the House. We have good relationships with Kevin McCarthy, and we'll exercise those relationships. There are a lot of rounds when it comes to the issues of Donald Trump. Round one is usually a tweet. Round two is usually back and forth with the press. Round three is assertion. Round four is a lawsuit. There's a lot of rounds, and we feel confident that we'll be on the good and righteous side of these debates and on the victorious side as well.
PG&E extended the deadline till Tuesday for a slate of board of directors. Are you going to weigh in?
Yeah,
we're on the side of Angelides and that group? Or?
Yeah, I'm not on any one side. I'm on the public side, and so I'm concerned that some of the hedge funds are trying to influence this. Interestingly, I'm not making this up. You wrote an article on this. You think I would react to you, but in this case, we actually are meeting on this topic in a few hours and trying to figure out the appropriate way of injecting ourselves in terms of what we believe is in the best interest of the public related to what a board of directors should look like. Clearly, we're concerned that one particular hedge fund is playing an outsized role and trying to influence that in a way that I don't think inures the best interest of the public.
You're talking about Elliott Management?
I'm talking about, well, I should broaden that. I'm concerned about the interests of a few getting in the way of the interest of the many. My job is to represent the ratepayers, taxpayers, the public interest in California, not the interests of a particular hedge fund or two.
CalPERS and STIRS each have votes here.
Yeah, so
And
we're.
do you think they're going to exercise that?
You should
they
call me in about 4 hours, and I'm going to be able to answer your question more substantively. Because quite honestly, we're working through it
Take
today.
Alexi, have the last question.
More
here.
about this strike team that you put together on
Oh, yeah.
PG and who's on it and what exactly
My
you're
gosh.
directing them
Oh, you're
to
gonna.
do. I mean, we're about a month, I think. From
Yeah, we got to. We're. I think April 12th is my deadline for a comprehensive report. We were with S&P 48 hours ago. I've been spending a lot of time with the legislature, legislative leaders, and I've also asked that our financial team and the bankruptcy attorneys that we've hired also spend time with the legislature. So we've briefed them. They're up to speed. We'll be making a comprehensive list of recommendations. There are many things we're banning about as it relates to next steps, not only situationally get out of the PG&E bankruptcy to make sure that we have two additional utilities that don't fall into bankruptcy, and we have a sustainable utility sector in California. So all that is being worked on, and the strike team meets every Monday. I begin my week with this as the top topic. There's not a day that goes by we're not engaged in these conversations, and we're going to make public in very detailed ways our list of recommendations by April 12th.
But
Thank you,
could
guys.
Could you give us a better sense of what you're discussing about? Is this, are you reacting to the PG&E bankruptcy? Are you talking about the broader issue of
I'd go back.
wildfire liability?
I think the easiest way to answer that, going back to my state of the state, I would try to be very transparent about what my intentions are in the state of the state, and actually marked that moment that I referenced this April 12th in that speech. And specifically, I said we have to deal with the short-term issue, the situational issue of PG&E's bankruptcy, and getting them to emerge from bankruptcy in a way that provides safe, reliable, and affordable power, and that does not sack the taxpayers and takes care of the victims. Number two, I said we need to address the fact that procurement, electricity procurement in the state is radically changed, which I think the regulatory structure needs to change and governance needs to change. And so we're reviewing what that means. 25% of all of electricity procured now in the state comes outside of the IOUs, the investor-owned utilities, over 50% in PG&E's territory. You have these direct access agreements, the power purchasing agreements, the market's changing. I think we need to change. So the PUC needs to change, the way we govern the utility sector needs to change, but situationally, bankruptcy and addressing the issue of the prospects of downgrades, both for Edison, Sempra, and obviously SDGE. You saw what happened with Moody's this week, which only underscores the anxiety, and we're going to do our best to make sure they don't fall into junk bond status. If you can edit that for your news, I am impressed beyond words. It's a way of expressing this. None of this is easy. There's no sound bites. This is real work. Thoughtful people are part of this. We're deeply engaged, and we're going to make public what that means so you'll have a better sense of it and you'll have more confidence that I'm just spewing a lot of hot air.
So the recommendations are for the legislature?
They'll be for the legislature, and they will give, I think, the public a sense of the architecture that we're framing to move forward. And they're informing the judge, not just the bankruptcy judge, but also the federal judge, Judge Alsup. I'm also very aggressively engaged with the PUC that's got to come out very shortly with their guidelines on wildfire management, as well as putting together their framework under 901, SB 901, as it relates to the 12 factors and the stress tests. And I'm moving that up from a July date. We're trying to get it in June, maybe as early as late May. And accordingly, we are working with the 901 Commission that will be coming out with their statutory June or July 1st deadline. We want to pull that up as well. All these are moving parts, trying to keep everybody together and working collaboratively as we can with the legislature, because we have to row together on this at peril that we run in 5 different directions.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. God bless.